YouTube is being so screwy. I don't know what's going on with it. Do me a favor, guys. If you can comment down below how long you've been following me and how you found my channel, that will maybe give me a few more answers as to what the YouTube algorithm is doing. Also, I've been hearing less that you guys have been unsubscribed, but just make sure you're still subscribed to my channel so you don't miss out on any future flight attendant videos. Hey guys, my name is Jacqueline. I am a corporate flight attendant and welcome to my YouTube channel, Jacqueline Travels. Today's video is titled, "It is expensive to be a corporate flight attendant." And if you guys have been watching me for a while, I have already made a video called "It's expensive to be a corporate flight attendant." I made it about 2 years ago, so the information is kind of old and I realized I left out some important things such as paying for flight attendant training and big information like that. So today I am redoing the video with some updated information for you guys. And also, since the original "It is expensive to be a corporate flight attendant" video came out 2 years ago, I have a ton of repeat questions. So I thought, let's get it refilmed. Let's get you guys up-to-date information. Let's make it new, fresh, and exciting. So as I mentioned earlier on the original "It's expensive to be a corporate flight attendant" video, I had a ton of questions from you guys. Thank you very much for all of the interaction. It really makes coming to YouTube and vlogging so much fun, especially since right now flying, unfortunately, is not happening for me as a corporate flight attendant. So now it's time to start covering some of the corporate flight attendant expenses. All right, let's get into the number one expense for a private flight attendant. Before you can even start working as a corporate flight attendant, before you can even walk onto those fancy private jets to start your job, you have to pay for corporate flight attendant training. And that's going to cost you about $5,000. So you have a huge out-of-pocket expense before you can even start applying for jobs, before anyone will even consider hiring you as a private flight attendant. $5,000 is a ton of money. It's such a competitive field. So a lot of new corporate flight attendants just end up being frustrated, understandably so, because it's a hard industry to break into, especially now with everything going on with the coronavirus. Private aviation is picking up more. I know a lot of private flight attendants who are back to work, and I'm so excited for you guys. I hope that I'm one of those private flight attendants very soon, because as much as I love being home, I miss being on private jets. So before you even start work as a corporate flight attendant, you are paying for your corporate flight attendant training. Start saving now. Like I said, that is a $5,000 commitment. Something else that I'm often asked as a flight attendant is, do we pay for our hotels when we are on a layover? And no, pilots and flight attendants do not pay for their layover hotels. The company books the trip for us. When you're a commercial flight attendant, you just generally sign into the hotel giving your flight number. But when you are a private flight attendant, the company still does book the hotel for you. However, you are paying with your personal credit card for your hotels each night that you are staying in a hotel. And it's industry standard. Before anyone asks why there's no corporate credit cards, I'm getting to that. Stay tuned, it's coming in this video. But I am paying for my hotel as a private flight attendant every time I check in. Another huge expense for corporate flight attendants is paying for the onboard catering. We serve our clients on the private jet some of the best food in the world, or we try to. I try to be on that level. And I can either choose to pick up food from a restaurant, order from an airline catering company, or cook myself at home and bring it to the private jet. Either way, if I have 14 people on this airplane, that is an expensive food tab. Plus, I'm paying for the food that I'll be eating and the food that the pilots will be eating as well. So the corporate flight attendant is in charge of paying for all of the onboard passenger catering. If you have long flights, sometimes that's 2 meals, or you could have like a meal flight and serve a snack on board, like a charcuterie platter. Then there's the onboard alcohol that you're paying for, the fruit basket, the snack basket. Every food item that is on the airplane, the corporate flight attendant is responsible for paying for that. So before I start my trips, I usually make a run to Whole Foods. I try to pick up as much as I can from there. That money is coming out of pocket. So before I even step on the private jet as a corporate flight attendant, I'm dropping like $200 on average at Whole Foods just to start prepping for my flight. And then if I order airline catering on top of that, the markup is insane. It's so expensive, so it's just easy to be handing over my personal credit card and charging $1,000 for airline catering. All right, so the private jet lands, the flight is over, you've cleaned everything, and now you're about to enjoy your layover. But you're not gonna do that until you pay for a rental car on the road. Yes, we also pay for our rental cars. I know that in private aviation, it's different than commercial aviation. As a commercial flight attendant, we were not provided with any sort of transportation except from the airport to the hotel and vice versa. As corporate cabin crew, we have responsibilities on the road. We're actually working during our layovers. Just an example for you relating back to catering is I spend a lot of my layover running around trying to secure more catering for my passengers. So I need a rental car to deal with my groceries, and then we use it for crew meals, or if we have a long layover somewhere, we go and check on the plane after a day or two of it being parked at an airport. So rental car is another expense that we have as corporate cabin attendants. So say our layover is done, we return the rental car, it's time to start working on the private jet again. I already told you I paid for my hotel the night before, and I already told you I dropped at least $1,000 on passenger catering. But now I'm covering items on the airplane as well. So if there's an in-flight entertainment system and you have Blu-ray DVDs and you just want to pick up the latest and have a good selection for your passengers. So I've gone to Best Buy on my layovers, pick up a few Blu-rays, put it all on my personal credit card. That's another flight attendant expense. And then if your passenger is chartering the private jet and it's someone's birthday, the private flight attendant is in charge of picking up decor for the airplane and just making it a fun and memorable experience for the clients. I've picked up decorations for Valentine's Day. I try to make the cabin fun when I'm flying over Christmas or the holiday season. I try to deck it out if I know I have a birthday on board and just pick up birthday decorations. So we are paying for everything on board. All of the fresh cut flowers, all of the in-flight entertainment. If you have kids on board, I've picked up art supplies for the kids. Obviously not anything that is gonna ruin the nice seats or the nice carpet on a private jet, just low impact arts and crafts for the kids. But yes, the flight attendant is responsible for covering all of those costs. All right, let's just say you're showing up at the private jet, ready to start flight attending just for a normal business trip. Well, there are still expenses that you will incur just for getting the cabin prepared for a normal business trip. If there are computer chargers or phone chargers that are needed, we pick those up during our layovers. Anytime that we order newspapers from the FBO, generally that's put onto the airplane fuel bill at the end if the fuel is being charged to the airplane and the pilots aren't covering it. But sometimes we'll just have to pay for newspapers. And of course, if you're getting a newspaper from the FBO, there's an insane markup. It becomes a very expensive newspaper. And then there's the wonderful support staff at the FBO who helps the flight crew get everything ready for our passengers. So we tip the employees at the FBO, and we are more than happy to do so. They provide us with ice. They hold our catering until the flight crew gets to the plane, or me, the private flight attendant, gets to the plane, and I'm able to put the catering away for our clients. The FBO will meet the plane when it lands, and they'll take the trash out for you. You hand them your tub of dishes if you don't wash them in flight, and the FBO will get the dishes done for you. They are there to support you, and they help us so much. You need to be tipping FBO staff. So another expense for a corporate flight attendant is the FBO tips. Again, I'm more than happy to cover them because they are so helpful, especially after a long day of flying when you just land and you're exhausted and you appreciate any sort of help that you can get. Now, going back to the rental car and the hotel, if you are valeting the car, you're also responsible for that. So in case you can't tell by this point in the video, as corporate cabin crew, you are responsible for all of the expenses when you're on the road. It is very expensive to be a corporate flight attendant. And while I'm on the topic of tipping, let's just talk about the wonderful hotel staff who cleans up your filth after you leave. Try to be a respectable hotel guest and do that on your own. Like, place all of the towels and washcloths in one general area. But if you're staying in a hotel for multiple nights and housekeeping is coming in and tidying up your room, you should leave them a few dollars at the end of your stay. All right, so in general, those are all the expenses that come to mind when I'm thinking about one of my trips or one of my layovers as a private flight attendant. So generally, I know when I leave my house and I'm getting ready to prepare for a trip or start a trip, I'm about to put a good chunk of money on my personal credit card. Now, a lot of the feedback in the original It's Expensive to Be a Corporate Flight Attendant video was you guys asking me why we don't have a corporate card. So the number one reason why we don't have a corporate card at my company personally, when we first started, or I guess when I first started because I'm the most junior flight attendant there was a vote and we all decided as flight crew, we wanted to use our personal credit cards because we get to keep all of the points for ourselves. I have built up very good hotel status. Personally, I never drive a rental car on layovers. I hate driving in everyday life, so I just leave the driving to the pilots, and the pilots have very good status with the rental car companies. So that's like the number one reason why we decided not to have corporate company credit cards and just put it all on our personal cards. Because then we would get to decide, do we want hotel points? Do we want cash back? Like, what kind of rewards are we earning by expensing everything on our trips? So it kind of seems like a headache doing expense reports, but in a sense, I'm grateful because I've kept my office skills fresh. As someone who works on a private jet and not inside an office, I was afraid that I would never know how to work in an office again. But having to do expense reports, I do Excel files, interofficing, which obviously is pretty brainless, like you don't have to think about that sort of thing. But I'm on a computer, I'm working on my Microsoft set skills and just keeping that office activity fresh. And I just want to point out, this is really industry standard. A lot of you guys said that I was crazy. There's no way that you would ever charge that amount of money for a company that you work for. But this is industry standard. This is how it's done pretty much across the board in private aviation. So even though I work for a company and they could provide me with a corporate credit card, when I first started flying, I was a contract flight attendant. So a company might not trust a contract employee with having a corporate credit card, or you might only contract one time and it's just easier for you to use your personal card when you're working these flight attendant trips than to use a company card all of the time. It's industry standard. I know a lot of you guys just didn't like hearing that, but it is what it is. So you definitely have to be really organized in this job. I have a little pouch in my purse and I save all of my receipts from each different trip in that pouch. This way I just have everything all together. And then I check my receipts based off my credit card statement. And since I'm using one credit card for the entire trip, it's easy to make sure that I check everything off and I am reimbursed. And then if I'm handing over cash for a tip, I just write it down on a Post-it. I show the pilot like, hey, I'm giving the guys at the FBO $10. Just, I want you to verify that I'm actually handing over $10. And then a lot of times the pilots will also just give the tip for the entire flight crew. So that's why I have that communication with the pilots, because if they've already paid out, then I wouldn't have to pay out. I would like to point out that since the coronavirus has started, this is the first time in 2 years that I have not had a balance on my credit card. The only reason I ever have a balance on my credit card is because of all the flights that I work. So I miss it. I miss expense reports. That's weird for me to say. I feel like I complain about it all the time. But if I'm filling out an expense report, I'm flying and I love flying and I miss it and I just can't wait to get in the sky again. Another question that I was asked a ton on the It's Expensive to Be a Corporate Flight Attendant video was, do you need to have good credit to be a corporate flight attendant? I don't know how to answer that. You definitely need to have credit to be a corporate flight attendant, because I wouldn't be able to put like thousands of dollars each trip from my checking account or from my debit card to cover everything until I get reimbursed from my company again. So a credit card is needed. You do have to use one. Do you have to have good credit? Probably, because I feel like you need at least a $15,000 credit limit on a credit card, and I don't think you're going to get that unless you have good credit. Now, if you're young and new to the industry and new to having credit, a credit card, like I said, is still going to be necessary, but the pilots might be able to help you cover some of the costs. So, of course, when you're doing catering before a flight starts, the pilots won't be available or with you or working next to you to help you cover that cost. But when you're on the road, they might be more than willing to cover your hotel expenses or your meal expenses and things like that. So you can get help from the pilots. I'm sure they're more than willing to help out because, like I said, we use our own credit cards when we're on layovers and we get to keep the points. So it's funny because if there's ever a big ticket item, it's like, I want to pay, no, I want to pay, no, I want to pay, because you're paying, but you're getting reimbursed, but you're getting to keep the points. It's a huge perk. I do want to say there are two downsides to using your own personal credit card in corporate aviation. The first downside, for me anyway, is the foreign currency conversion. I travel international pretty often and I pay with my card. Just a real quick tip, if you're looking to get into corporate aviation, use a credit card that doesn't charge you foreign transaction fees, because that would just add up really, really quick. I hand over my card in foreign destinations. They charge me in the local currency, and when I'm billed, it comes back in US dollars because I have a US credit card. But I need to show the receipt with the foreign currency on there to the US dollar amount that was actually taken out of my account. And you can just go online, you Google what's the currency exchange rate between this country and this country on this date, and it's simple enough. It's just something that I don't really like to do. It's extra work. I feel like it's busy work, whatever. And then the final downside to using my personal credit card when I'm on my layovers is, and I'm not saying this happens because I work for a great company, but in the past, this has happened. You get back from your trip and you're diligent and you turn in your expense report within 2 days of flying when everything has cleared your bank account. And then the company holds on to the expense report and then it's over 30 days. So your credit card is either going to charge you interest, or you're going to pay out of your checking account or your savings account so you're not charged interest, but now you're out that money 2 times. So if a company is late on paying an invoice, you can certainly charge them interest after your statement cycle comes to term. It doesn't happen often. Any legit company that you're flying for should pay you before the 30 days is up. Know your rights. You should not be paying interest to carry a balance for a company that you're working for. Now, sometimes there's delays in accounting or paperwork can get lost. Like, things do happen. It's happened to me. It's not a huge deal. Just make sure that you pull up your credit card interest rate and do the calculations and make sure that you are paid back the interest that you are owed because you were late in being reimbursed. All right, I think you guys are all up to date now with how expensive it is to be a corporate flight attendant. As always, if you guys have any questions, comments, thoughts, or concerns that I didn't touch on in this video, post them down below. Or if you have any other video ideas that you would like to see, let me know in the comment section. I've got time. I'm not flying. Let's make videos. If you guys are looking for me on social media, my Twitter is @JackTravels. That is JAC Travels. And if you are looking for me on Instagram, I am Jacqueline Travels, just like I am here on YouTube. Please make sure that you leave me a thumbs up for this video. And of course, please make sure that you subscribe to my channel so you don't miss out on any future flight attendant videos. Thank you guys very much for watching. I'll talk to you soon.